Okay, so today I'm going to be going over how to paint some clouds. So I've already created this sky gradient, and I'm working with acrylic paints today. So I'm just going to be teaching you guys the next steps as far as how to go about this cloud painting. So I'm looking off of a reference photo of clouds. It's really going to be very, very helpful for you if you can work off of some reference photos instead of just going straight out of your head. So I'm working with acrylic paint in titanium white, and I'm just going to start by forming some basic cloud shapes. So I'm just kind of going in with white. I've already painted the gradient of the sky. That's for another tutorial video, but this is just to show you how to create the clouds. So plain white paint. I'm just kind of going through, and you guys can see it's not fully covering, so that's okay. I'm actually not painting on canvas. I've been trying lately to paint on, it's called encaustic board. So it's just kind of, it's almost like a pre-gessoed wooden panel. So I kind of like it for a painting surface, but sometimes it does it's just a different texture than what painting on a canvas would be. So anyway, I'm just painting these cloud-like shapes, and I kind of want like all these clouds going along the horizon line. So it's real white and puffy along here. So I'm just kind of keeping an irregular shape. You don't want it to look too like formulaic or perfect or anything. You want it to kind of have a natural looking shape to it. So I'm trying to just kind of be free with my cloud-like shapes, and looking off of the reference photo does really help. Sometimes I might need to water down my brush a little bit, and that can kind of help it if your paint's getting a little bit thick and you're having a hard time moving it around. Watering down your brush can really help. If you're painting on a canvas of sorts and there's a wrapped edge, make sure you go around the edge because it's going to make it much easier for you to hang up your piece. Okay. So I think I'm just going to bring this cloud line all the way down. It's kind of like just play with that form before I finish painting it in. There we go. I'm using a round brush today. The size is a 6. So it's a 6 round, and I like to use round brushes when I'm painting clouds because I think it just helps me get that kind of circular movement and motion. I'm a huge Van Gogh fan, so I love the way he paints clouds. And I feel like that kind of circular, whimsical, moving type fluffy cloud is easier with a round brush as opposed to a flat brush. So I'm just going to kind of keep painting those in and go all the way down to the horizon line. My horizon line's not done. I just put on a base coat down there. So I'm just going to go over that. And then I'll clean up the horizon line later when I go back over it with the yellow. I really wanted those complementary colors of blue, and orange and yellow I'm creating like a fall harvest type painting here. Okay, so there I've got some of my clouds in. Let's make this one a little bit bigger, more central to the piece. Okay, up a little bit more. Okay, and then I feel like it needs sometimes I struggle if I'm overdoing it with the clouds. Maybe I'll make this one just a little bit bigger. There we go. I feel like it needs just a little something up here, but I don't think it needs a whole nother cloud. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I'm just going to make this cloud bigger. Let's wrap it up right here. There we go. That looks better. Okay, come around on this edge over here. Just connect those. Okay. I never like to paint the edge, but I'm always thankful later that I did take the time to paint the edge. Okay, so now that I've got that first coat of titanium white paint, I'm going to go back to some of them that I'd previously done before I started the recording, and I'm going to do that second layer of white. So can you see how much better that looks as I go back on and layer that in? I'm painting a little bit thick, which I kind of like. I'm really into, like I said, the Van Gogh, the more impressionistic, expressionistic style of painting. So I like to paint just a little bit thicker and let that paint just kind of pile up and take on a life of its own, like little brush strokes showing. So, okay, now that I've painted that one white, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with some gray. So it's important when I'm mixing up a gray that I'm going to grab mainly white and just a tiny, tiny little bit of black or Payne's gray, because it's really, really easy to go too strong with the gray. So really, really light color here. Okay, so there's kind of the gray that I'm mixing up. Okay, let's see how that looks. Grab that. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of like go in different areas of the cloud. And I'm blending this in while it's still wet because I want it to blend together. I don't want it to look like harsh on it. Okay, so that looks, I like that. Get rid of it on my brush. I'm going to go back in with the white and I'm just going to blend it out a little bit more heavy. Okay, so I'm going to wash my brush out. And this time I'll do a couple before I move back to it. So again, I'm blending that gray in with the white. So I'm going to go back over this one. I'll show you again. Okay. Some cloud paintings, you may use a yellow highlight on top, depending on if it's like a sunset or a sunrise. There's going to be a yellow tone. So with what I'm doing with the gray, you could do this with any color depending on the type of cloud you have. You could do yellow and like a pink gold. Sometimes clouds look like that. Sometimes clouds might have more of a light blue shadowy tone. So it doesn't have to be gray. That's just the color that I'm choosing for this piece based off of the reference photo that I'm looking off of. Has more of the grayish cloud coverage, but they don't all. So keep that in mind. So there, I'll paint that one white, and then I'll go back over this one with another coat because you can see it was kind of see-through. And now when I go back in and I add this color on top, it is totally opaque. So opaque means it's not at all see-through. Okay. See, that shape just got really weird. So I'm going to have to fix that. It looks like it just didn't look right. So sometimes I'm going to have to just awkwardly make it a little bit bigger right there. That kind of works. It's okay. Okay, grab some more white. Just going back in over those clouds. There we go. Okay. There. Nice and white. Okay. That highlighted area and the bottom. Okay, now that all that's done, okay, now I'll go back in with some of my gray tone and I'll work that in the shadowies underneath, making it look so much more realistic. A lot of people just want to leave a plain white cloud, which just doesn't work because shadows are always a part of a cloud, just based on where the sun hits them. So shadows in your clouds are going to be very important. I'm kind of also doing like a little bit of a draggy brush stroke, and also just kind of like circular to blend it out once I get it down. So it's not just along the bottom, but I'm kind of focusing my shadows along the bottom. They're also, though, up in some of like the folds and the pillows of the clouds. So don't just do your shadowing underneath. You can bring it up too. You can have it throughout the center of your cloud. This is where it really helps to look off of a reference photo because this kind of stuff is hard. Or even better than a reference photo, you can go out and paint in plein air. You can take your paints and go out and actually just look off of a cloud. That's like my favorite way to paint. I don't get a chance very often to paint that way, but when you do, there's nothing better than looking right off of a direct, beautiful reference of the sky. It also gives you the little sense of urgency that you gotta, get it done before the clouds move on you. Whereas when you're looking off a reference photo, it can be a little more, I at least tend to want to be more of a perfectionist because I feel like I've got all the time in the world to sit and fuss and try to make it perfect. But when I'm painting just out in plein air, it's kind of a fun challenge for myself. Okay, and then we'll do these. So same thing. I'm gonna just got some gray on my brush already. That's okay. I'll just work with it. Okay. Get that highlight on there without touching a whole lot of gray on there. Okay. And this is with acrylic paint. So acrylic paint, if you've ever worked with oil paint, acrylic paint dries much faster. This whole painting will probably be completely dry in about 15-20 minutes, everything that I'm putting down on these clouds. which can be good and can be bad. It makes it nice if you're doing this at like a paint night, because you can pick up your painting and you can move it quickly after you're done, but it makes it challenging if you are a slow painter or you're working on a big canvas, because when you go to come back to something and try to work a shadow into it, or you try to keep blending it, it's dried out on you. So in that sense, sometimes acrylic can be pretty challenging because you got to work quickly or else it's going to dry on you. And once it's dry, you are really limited with how much blending and how many changes you can make. So again, guys, going in with that gray while it's still wet. So I apply that white and then go right in with the gray, because if I don't, then it's going to be, it won't blend together like I want it to. So there we go. Okay. Now come down here and I'll do these bottom clouds. So I'm washing out my brush. A little trick when you're washing out brush, do it like a figure 8. It helps the paint get through the threads of the bristles of the brush, and it just helps the color that's on your brush come out faster. I learned that in a watercolor painting class, and it also works with acrylic. So instead of just swishing it like back and forth, swish it like a figure 8, and it helps clean the color out of your brush. I love coming up with little tricks and tips and tricks like that. Make my life easier as an artist. Okay. So I'm just painting all this white. For this particular painting, I'm planning on using a limited color scheme. So limited color schemes, guys, if you've never experimented with them, are so much fun because they bring so much unity to your pieces of art. They challenge you to be creative and blend colors that you would have otherwise just grabbed from your painter's kit. And I think that when you blend a color, it's just so much more rich and beautiful than when you pull it directly from your tube of paint. So for me, if I can mix up a color, I will absolutely do that, because the paint colors are just so much richer when you mix them versus when you just push them out of the paint tube and go from there. I also feel like it gives me more control over the exact color I want instead of just randomly, selecting what I think would be decent based off of what's in the paint tube. Okay, so now it's white. Last part I'm going to show you guys, we'll go in with these shadows. So let's go ahead and let's put those kind of underneath and on top as we come through. Okay, kind of like dragging it around a little bit, pulling it up more in some areas. Painting clouds can be really, really challenging, but once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad, and it's kind of a little bit fun. Sometimes people will even, it's kind of fun to use your finger a little bit to blend. So that's another technique you can do. You can just kind of go in with your finger, and that just blends it together really beautifully, and it's kind of fun. So there's no rules when it comes to art. That's one thing I love about art. There's no rules. There's techniques and tricks and tips you can use, but it's your art, and never be afraid to experiment with trying a new technique, a new way of doing things. There's always more than one way to create anything. So sometimes I like to get my hands a little bit dirty, literally and figuratively, when it comes to my creative process. Okay, so I'm just kind of ending with the gray over here. And if you guys would like, as I finish this, if you guys would like to see more videos of me completing a painting like this, where you can see how to use a limited color scheme or how to create the gradient in the background, let me know. I just wanted this to be a pretty quick video showing you just how to do the clouds. But if you guys want me to show you more, just let me know in the comments, and I am happy to make more videos and teach you guys some new tips and tricks for any sort of acrylic painting that you guys want to learn. So last thing you can do is, this is all still wet. So I can use that to my advantage and come in here and kind of move some of that around if I want to. Grab your finger and play with the paint. It is kind of nice to move the paint around when it's just a little bit tacky. So that means like it's just got a little tack to it. So it's just a little bit dry, but it's still wet. It's still movable. That's kind of one of my favorite ways to go back over and really blend out some paint and blend some color and move some of that around. Also, if my brush strokes in some areas were just a little harsh, going back over and blending it now can make a big difference and help out. Okay, so I hope you guys have fun creating your clouds. Show me pictures of what you guys make. I cannot wait to see your guys' art, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day and happy creating.